Thanks for tuning into the channel. Today we'll be going over a fun commander from Tarkir Dragonstorm, Kotis the Fangkeeper. It's indestructible and it likes to steal the stuff from your opponent's deck. This deck, we did keep it under $100 for the build here in order to show off how we're building it. I did personally build this from cards that I just had lying around. So not exactly the best deck, but still a fun one. Make sure you leave your comments on how you'd improve the deck down there in the comment section, and subscribe for future deck profiles. But let's get into the cards that are in here. So we start off with cards like Bone Sabers to give it those +1/+1 counters. Our main goal in this deck is for Kotis to deal damage, and lots of it, by giving it things like Unblockable, Trample, and just overall a big power bonus from all those +1/+1 counters we're putting in here. Champion of Doosan gives it those counters and that trample ability. That's presence, make sure that you can move your counters around in this deck. Dust Shell Crawler gives it that trample, so make sure it deals the damage, as it does need to deal the damage to your opponent specifically. Izori Claw of Progress, we do have plenty of weak creatures in this deck, so it definitely helps out. Champion of Doosan is the one I showed, but it actually isn't meaning the qualifications to power 2 or less, but Kotis themselves does, so we could help power her up a little bit more each time with that. Forgotten Ancient, just a good +1/+1 counter creature. Gnarly Colony for that trample ability off it. Hardened Scales to get some extra +1/+1 counters off our +1/+1 counters. Hosted Hereafter, this way we can make sure to move those counters around and they don't go to waste. Since Oslos was a bit too expensive for the build that we were doing for this one, but you could always do that yourself if you like. Put a +1/+1 counter on a creature, or two if you really have the channel ability to cast it with. Pride Malkin, give those counters and the trample. Renata, Call to the Hunt. Once again, it enters, get those counters onto the creature. Ridge Scale Tusker. May as well put more +1/+1 counters on all your creatures. This way, Kotis isn't the only one that you're relying on here. Swarm Shambler gets stronger itself the more +1/+1 counters you get on it. And whenever a creature you control with a +1/+1 counter becomes the target of a spell and opponent controls, you may as well get some tokens. This way you have more stuff to put those counters on. We have Whirling Stormbrute, get those counters, and also it's just a Flying Dragon, something for a little bit of protection that we had lying around there. Eager Eater of All, we had that lying around, a bit expensive for this deck, but like I said, I had it lying around, so I decided to throw it on in there. Good with those +1/+1 counters, good with getting the trample, good with just dealing a bunch of damage to your opponent. Dragonfire Blade as an equipment to put in this deck. That is only a 1-cost equip ability to equip to Kotis themselves. Fake Your Own Death. This way, when Kotis does die, you can bring them back. Maximum Overdrive and Offer Mortality do the same, and also giving that Death Touch to them makes it so that the way that Trample and Death Touch work together is that you deal the 1 damage to the creature, and the rest gets dealt to the opponent, giving you more cards they can steal off the top of their deck. Snakeskin Veil for a little bit of extra protection, since she is already indestructible. The indestructible part of these don't really matter that much, but making sure that they are hexproof does help out a bunch, so that it doesn't get Swords to Plowshare, have to exile, all the above. Whisper Seal Cloak, once again, can't be target spells or abilities, and can't be blocked. Always helpful there. Formation Breaker, just a strong creature potentially at some point in order to deal that finishing blow if we need it. Sagu Pummeler gets some extra +1/+1 counters onto Kotis, and also we don't really have enough things with reach in this deck, so it helps out there as well. Mimeoplasm, some extra +1/+1 counters. We don't really get too many things back from our graveyard, so may as well get them as a use somehow. Unnatural Restoration, speaking of ways to get things back from our graveyard, but also proliferating the +1/+1 counters we have on all of our creatures there. In order to draw cards, we have cards like Dire Sight. Enter the Enigma also makes sure that they get the unblockable there. Feed the Infection for some draw power. Infectious Inquiry, get some poison counters. Since we do have to proliferate, we may as well. Inspiring Call, give them indestructible, mostly for your other creatures, not so much for Kotis. Lunar Insight, just because we do run quite a wide variety of mana values in this deck, it does help out there quite a bit. Open into Wonder, make your creatures unblockable, make them deal the damage to your opponent. Rashmi, Eternity's Crafter, whenever you cast your first spell each turn, reveal the top card of your library, and may cast it without paying its mana cost. Well, we want to cast spells for free in this deck, and normally we're doing it off our opponent's deck, but we may as well do it off ours as well. Satoru the Infiltrator, in order to draw the cards when you use cards like Rashmi or Kotis in this deck. Trade Route Envoy, a little bit of draw power there, but it could also just be a strong creature sometimes. Yadon Tomb Guard, a little bit of draw power when Kotis does deal the damage, or your other creatures with the trample and +1/+1 counters deal their damage as well. We have Basilisk Collar to give it the Death Touch. Once again, the way Death Touch and Trample work together is a lot of fun. Canker Bloom, remove your opponent's stuff from the board, specifically their Soul Rings, their enchantments that prevent us from attacking, because we need a way to attack. But if they have Propaganda or something on the board, this will help us get rid of that. And also, if we need to, we proliferate the poison counters, we proliferate the +1/+1 counters. It helps out there. Vraska the Unseen, you potentially get -7 ability, that helps out a lot. And whenever a creature deals combat damage to Vraska, you get to get that destroyed, but mostly you get to destroy the non-land permanent, which is real helpful there. Simone's Hypothesis, get the +1/+1 counter, and make sure that you could do a little bit of board wipe there while you're at it. For ramp, we have Arcane Signet, Expanded Spheres, which also could do the proliferation thing, Farseek, Fertilid, Heaped Harvest for that mana ramp, Carol Goldkeeper gets a treasure token, Map the Waste, Rampant Growth will get us those lands, Phyrexian Atlas, I just kind of ran out of Commander Spheres, but also that one extra damage could make the difference, especially since you're already running poison counters. Realm Seekers, once again, search for lands. Rishkar Pima Renegade, get the +1/+1 counters on your creatures, make sure you can tap them for mana, may as well. Sky Serpent Seeker, flying, Death Touch, good blocker, but also gets you 2 lands potentially, and for the +1/+1 counters there as well. Let's go ahead and move to the other side of the deck. Sorry. Then next we have cards like Zephyr Singer. This way you could give our creatures that flying ability, Tuskguard Captain to give them the trample ability, Suspicious Bookcase to give them the unblockable ability, and Aspirant Ascent, once again, a little bit of toxic on this deck, helps out a whole bunch. We have cards as well in here like Krumar Initiate. Indoors, just real helpful. We do lose a little bit of life, so that could come back to bite us, especially because people hate it when you take their cards out of their deck. But some tokens, some counters, helps out there. Herd Bailots, get some tokens, may as well. Giant Adaphage, you're going to be trampling over, it's going to be powerful. You're going to get some counters on there. Copies of that. Drake Hatcher, once again we're proliferating, so we're going to get the extra blue drakes on this deck as well. Unstoppable Slasher, since we're dealing damage with +1/+1 counters on a creature, giving a trample, makes it so that it can actually deal that damage to your opponent there as well. Venomous Brutalizer, another proliferate card, same with Drumming Bird. Thirsting Roots, also search for a land if we need it. And Bloated Contaminator. And for lands in this deck, we have Evolving Wilds, Forest, Great Irishman City, Island, Jungle Hollow, Ewar, Isle Refuge, Kishla Village, Mistvault Bridge, Murky Sewer, Nesting Grounds, Opulent Palace, Swamp, Terramorphic Expanse, Driving Moor, and Vault of Whispers. Like I said, there are a few cards you can remove from this deck in order to make it considerably cheaper, like Eager or Basilisk Collar. But this is a fun deck that you could run here. Make sure that you leave your own tips of how you'd run the deck down there in the comment section. I'd like to thank you so much for watching, and make sure you subscribe to tune in for the next one.